The special relationship between the United States and Great Britain is finished. That's the claim. You've seen it in the headlines, you've heard it on TV, and if you believe the commentary, you would think decades of military trust has collapsed because two leaders don't get on. That idea sounds convincing, but is it completely wrong? Here's the truth. Militarily, the United States and Great Britain are more intertwined today than at any point in their history. Not emotionally, not politically, but structurally. And that raises an uncomfortable question. One that matters if you care about national security, global stability, or the people sent to fight wars on your behalf. So if presidents argue and governments clash, why do British and American forces still operate as if nothing's changed? So let's dive in to the special relationship. Welcome back to the war. The military relationship between the US and Britain didn't begin with friendship, it began with fear. In 1940, Britain stood largely alone. The United States was officially neutral, but already involved. American factories were supplying British warships and aircraft. US intelligence was flowing across the Atlantic, and American destroyers were escorting convoys through the North Atlantic months before the US formally entered the war. Here's what most people miss. The US and UK began operating as military partners before they were allies on paper. By the time American troops arrived in Europe, command structures were already fusing, intelligence sharing was routine, joint planning staffs were in place. D-Day wasn't just a coalition invasion, it was proof that two separate militaries could function as one. And when the war ended, something unusual happened. They didn't dismantle the system. Most wartime alliances dissolve once the enemy is gone. This one didn't, and there's another reason for that. Before we move on, think about this. Do alliances survive because of shared values or because of shared threats? Drop your answer in the comments, because the next chapter explains why this partnership refused to die. If World War II made the relationship visible, the Cold War pushed it underground. In 1946, the US and UK quietly signed the UK-US agreement. There were no speeches, no headlines. Most people didn't even know it existed, but its consequences still shape modern warfare today. This agreement created what we know now as the Five Eyes intelligence network. Here's why that matters. Britain and America didn't just agree to cooperate, they agreed to share raw intelligence, not summaries, not filtered assessments, the actual data, signals, intercepts, submarine movements, satellite tracking. That level of trust is almost unheard of. Britain gained intelligence, capabilities it could never afford alone. The US gained global reach through British bases, geography, and decades of intelligence expertise. At this point, the two militaries weren't just allies, they were interdependent. Even when politicians clash publicly, the military relationship never breaks. During crisis, like the Suez, and intelligence sharing continued, nuclear coordination remained intact, quiet planning never stopped. So if this partnership survived nuclear standoffs and the Cold War, why do people think it's fragile today? After 9/11, the relationship stopped being theoretical. British forces deployed to Afghanistan alongside American units almost immediately. Not symbolically, at scale. They shared bases, logistics, air support and intelligence. In Helmand Province, British troops relied on American air power, while US commanders relied heavily on British counterinsurgency expertise. The same pattern appeared in Iraq. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Regardless of how you feel about those wars, they fused the two militaries at the same tactical level. Officers trained together, communication systems were aligned, equipment compatibility became a priority, not an afterthought. And there's a reason interoperability became so critical after Iraq, because of a failure that nearly cost lives. But we'll come back to that. But first, we need to talk about the moment the media insists everything falls apart. During Donald Trump's presidency, headlines repeatedly claim that the special relationship is under strain. Trump criticises NATO, he questions alliance costs, he clashes personally with world leaders. From the outside, it looks chaotic, but behind the scenes, very little changes. Joint military exercises and operations continue. Intelligence sharing never pauses. Britain's nuclear deterrent, based on US Trident missile systems, remains untouched. US forces continue using British bases as critical hubs for Eastern European operations. One defence official summed it up bluntly: the uniforms never stop talking. That's the part the headlines miss. The military relationship is insulated from political noise, not because it's sentimental, but because it's necessary. Which brings us back to that failure I mentioned earlier. Different allies use different communication systems, different data links, different rules of engagement. In fast-moving combat, those gaps cause delays, and in some cases, nearly led to friendly fire incidents. The response wasn't blame, it was integration. The US and UK doubled down on shared command systems, common targeting processes, and joint training pipelines. Interoperability became non-negotiable. The lesson was simple: future wars will be fought together or not at all. Today, British pilots train on US platforms. American units rotate through UK-led NATO exercises. Cyber and space operations are increasingly coordinated by default. And here's the quiet reality most people don't hear. Modern Western war planning assumes US-UK cooperation as a baseline. So why does this relationship survive leadership changes, public disagreements, and media outrage? Because breaking it would weaken both sides. Britain gains access to strategic intelligence, nuclear systems, and global reach. The US gains a proven ally with elite forces, global basing, and deep coalition experience. This isn't nostalgia, it's called military logic. The special relationship isn't loud, but it doesn't need to be. It operates beneath politics, beneath media cycles, and often beneath public awareness. And while leaders come and go, the military bond between the United States and Great Britain remains one of the most durable force multipliers in modern history. Now go check out our playlist on the United States military. Hi soldiers, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and check out our merchant membership programs. And don't forget to check back in again soon. That's an order.